Danielle is a chef currently struggling to keep her restaurant from being permanently closed. She tries innovating flavors in different dishes to impress her friend/investor, Owen. Owen's father wants him to pull back on the funding he is giving to Danielle, and even though he doesn't want to, he still has to put up a convincing argument. Getting some time from Owen, Danielle has to come up with a new menu, so her sister tells her to go for her long-due trip to Italy, try all kinds of foods, and come up with an inspiration. In Ostia Antica, a cute little village in Italy, Giancarlo is serving ice cream in his father's restaurant Aldo's. Little Nico comes to get his strawberry ice cream, but Giancarlo forces him to try a new flavor. Even after tasting, Nico decides strawberry is still his preference. Giancarlo wants to create new flavors like his deceased mother used to do every summer, but for the last 3 years, they have been serving the same flavors. His father Aldo feels satisfied in simply continuing the legacy they have already set. Danielle visits the cafe while looking for her cottage, developing a friendly conversation with the father, son, and a regular customer, Rana. Aldo makes her try pistachio gelato, which Danielle praises. Giancarlo makes her taste his rosemary and grapefruit gelato. However, Danielle points out a few shortcomings that aren't blending the flavor, effectively offending poor Giancarlo. Leaving the cafe, she reaches Alida's cottage. She realizes that everyone knows everyone in this village, and they all have meetups and parties very often. Alida invites her to a game of tombola, something similar to bingo, but due to being jet-lagged, Danielle passes. Alida gives Danielle a local book to read, hoping she'd like it. At night, Danielle tries to sleep, but the constant ringing of church bells makes it impossible. She reads a little of the book where the story talks about an American woman falling for the Italian village and its people. After reading a little, she decides to attend the game night. At the game night, Giancarlo makes a bet with his father that if he wins, he tries to get out new flavors, and if he loses, he drops his insistence of doing things. When Danielle comes in, she's coincidentally seated with Giancarlo. She apologizes about stepping the boundary and then mentions not knowing about the game. Being a gentleman, Giancarlo teaches her how the game is played. As they begin, Danielle slowly gets a hang of it and ends up winning the game. Unaware of the bet between the father and the son, she is left confused at Giancarlo's disappointment. The next day, Aldo and Giancarlo have the same argument till Aldo agrees to put a flavor on the shelves if Nico approves of it. Danielle waits for the bus at the stop the next day, but it doesn't appear. Visiting the cafe, she asks about it, expecting it is just delayed, but it turns out that the bus stop is abandoned and she failed to notice the dates on the app she checked. This slows Danielle's detailed itinerary, but Giancarlo improvises it by offering her a local breakfast here. Agreeing to it, Danielle is once again made to taste the gelato. She jokes about him forcing his new flavor on every visitor, but realizes that it is the same flavor improved with the suggestions he gave. Having thought about it, he understood that she was right and gave it a try. This conversation leads to the two of them making a deal that she can help him create new flavors, and he will help her complete her itinerary by taking her around. The task, however, is to impress not any other person but Nico, because if Nico approves of a flavor, everyone is going to try it. They first get into trying out a new flavor based on strawberries. Giancarlo is in pure passion mode when he says you just know the right amount of water and strawberries and don't need to measure it. As they prepare for it, Giancarlo looks at her check marks for the day and decides to take her to the historical castle first, hoping it will ground her senses and inspire her. Seeing Giancarlo having a scooter to commute excites Danielle, since she always wanted to ride on one. And what better place than the roads of Italy to do that? In the castle, Danielle and Giancarlo discuss about the difference in their environments, as people are extra friendly in Italy, and everyone knows everyone in the village. Even though Danielle owns a restaurant too, it isn't the same as Giancarlo's cafe. Giancarlo always expected himself somewhere else with his business degree, but knowing he was going to take over eventually, he decided to learn as much from his father. He then takes Danielle to a friend's property and makes her trust her chef's intuition to smell and guess the kinds of mints instead of looking at them. At night, Alida sees Danielle working on some herbs she picked with Giancarlo. Alida teases Danielle about him. Meanwhile, the moment Danielle turns on the mixer, the electricity goes short. Luckily, they have Bruno to help. As Bruno helps, Danielle sees the cute tension between him and Alida, making it her turn to be a tease. The next day, Giancarlo decides to take her out on a bike ride. Discussing the flavor for today, Giancarlo lets Danielle take the lead in the market. Giving her a cute bicycle adventure, he lets her choose whatever path. Reaching the farmer's market, the two of them discuss different flavor components and how Giancarlo wanted to study in the States, but that didn't work well for him. Meeting a sweet vendor, Danielle gets the idea of mixing different ingredients for a new flavor. The vendor decides to give the stuff for free since Giancarlo visited with a friend, taking the hospitality to a newer level. After enjoying a little, the two head back to try out their new gelato. Danielle gets to know that Giancarlo is the first in 4 generations to not have the name Aldo. Aldo always told Giancarlo it was because they were more creative to change names, but it is a lie. Once the gelato is finally ready, Nico visits, and the two of them make him taste it. However, it still gets rejected. Giancarlo tells her not to let this failure get to her head and to try out more different things to fight it. This is what he has always believed. The next day, Danielle plays Cupid for the already perfectly matched couple by calling Bruno to bring some firewood, placing the lasagna on the table, and dragging the conversation till Elita appears. The two then invite Bruno to join them for lunch, after which Danielle makes an excuse that she already ate and has to go to Giancarlo. Visiting Aldo's, Danielle and Giancarlo head to make the new flavor according to the idea Danielle had of using ricotta cheese, honey, and mint. Giancarlo tastes it and finds a little something missing from it. Danielle feels the same. He then decides to let her take a break from this and get back on her plans. Danielle tells him this distraction was a good one for her, more like something necessary she needed at the moment. The two of them go for olive oil tasting, where they are assumed to be a couple, which neither of them mind. Giancarlo is amazed by Danielle's sheer will to work for something she likes. Giancarlo then invites her to a party they are having Friday morning. Since her flight is in the evening, she agrees. The two of them flirt with each other and about to kiss when the owner of the place visits, gifting Danielle his favorite bottle of olive oil that has a hint of hazelnut in it. This gives Danielle an idea of what might be missing from their recipe. The next day, the two of them add a touch of hazelnut to their already created recipe. Tasting it, the two of them are elated to find it tastes amazing. They both hope Nico likes it too, but decide to be happy either way. Danielle suggests naming it Mussolini's Song, in honor of the book she read about the Italian gentleman making an American girl's trip to Italy very special. After leaving the cafe, Danielle gets a call from Owen about her deadline being pushed up. She has only 2 days to propose a new menu. The next day, Giancarlo tries to make Bruno taste the new flavor, but he wants to stick to chocolate. Nico walks in wanting to try it. For the first time, Nico expresses surprise in that he likes the flavor. This not only gets Aldo and Giancarlo the happiest, but now everyone wants to try the flavor. By the time Danielle visits, the cafe is crowded. Squeezing through, she reaches Giancarlo, who expresses his joy at the gelato being wiped out and how everyone loves it. Danielle expresses her happiness for him, but has to stay in and start working on her menu. The entire night she cannot come up with anything for her menu. The next day she is cycling around with pent-up feelings when Giancarlo finds her. She had 1 day left and still found no inspiration. Spending the whole day together, Danielle feels at peace. Giancarlo tries to make her stay, if not forever, then for a while longer, but understands that she will be risking losing a part of herself through that restaurant and wishes well upon her. The next day, Giancarlo gets into a tiny argument with Aldo about being stuck in time at this place. Aldo tells Giancarlo that he wasn't named Aldo because his mother knew he was meant to be beyond this place. Aldo approves of having Giancarlo leave this place and pursue his dreams, pursuing being with Danielle. Through the book she read in a conversation with the author's son, Danielle finally gets an idea to keep her restaurant contract intact. She realizes it isn't about recipes or herself, but about the people and what makes the community happy, something inspired by Ostia Antica. The next day, the party goes by pleasantly for everyone. Danielle tells Giancarlo about Owen approving her new direction of converting Danielle's into a cafe, something similar to Aldo's. Giancarlo wishes well upon her, but Danielle stops him and confesses she needs him in her life. She requests him to come to America with her, and knowing he wants her to be the complete version of himself just as much, he agrees to accompany her. And with that, the two of them get their cute little happily ever after by working together for and at Danielle's.